episode 1 of our brand new Clarity PAWDcast. I'm Maya. I am the founder of Clarity Dog Training and Cosmic Canine in Plano, Texas. I've been training for like 20 years, 10 years competitively, and 10 years with Cosmic Canine, so we've trained thousands of dogs over the last 10 years.
I am Daio Floyd. I am the head trainer of Cosmic Canine New Jersey. I've known Maya for many years. I have been competing at a national level since the age of 8 in dog sport. I have been training dogs since I was about 10 years old, and I'm just really grateful to be here and get to talk with you about some dog stuff.
What we've decided to talk about today is an article that was published in The Atlantic in October of 2023. And the title of the article is Too Many People Own Dogs. And if you love dogs, maybe don't get one. It's by Rose Horowitz. This might not be the most popular topic or the most popular conclusion, but at first I thought, my first reaction was negative. Like, what do you mean if you love dogs, maybe don't get one? Then I read the article and really started thinking about it. And after doing that, I thought, you know what?
Not wrong.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
Rose has a real point here, and as a dog lover and a dog trainer, it's hard to say, yeah, there's too many dogs and fewer people need to have dogs, but a lot of the points that she makes in the article are really valid.
Yeah.
And we were just going to chat about some of those topics today. Well, the first example in the article was a lady who got a dog that just had all kinds, to summarize it, all kinds of behavioral issues, and ended up on a cocktail of all kinds of drugs to control the behavior. I can't even pronounce all of them. A whole lot of drugs, everything from Prozac to other things I can't pronounce.
As someone who works a lot with shelter dogs and rescue dogs, I see the over-medication of dogs fairly often. And this usually happens when we're talking about dogs that are working breeds or herding breeds or guardian breeds, because those are behaviors that a lot of regular people are not equipped to handle. And instead of learning more about the breed and the breed's predisposition, they usually take their dog to a vet and say, hey, fix this. And from a vet, they're much like a doctor. So a doctor is going to prescribe you medication to fix the problem that your body is having. Whereas dogs don't have access to a psychiatrist or something like that fully. So sometimes it is a mental rehab that needs to happen. And it's a struggle because behaviorists and trainers don't seem to be on the same page with how to address a lot of these situations. So it puts the owners in a really confusing space, and that's when we do get dogs who are heavily over-medicated. And it's hard because a lot of trainers are not certified, right? Because it's one of those fields where anybody can just post some videos online of their own personal dog. Who knows if it took them 2-3 years to get those results. But say, hey, look at my dog is cool, I can train dogs. And they're gonna get some clients because somebody is gonna fall for it, somebody who needs help, somebody who wants the work done for cheap. Right. If they even are able to do the work, somebody's gonna fall for it. So that's why there is a lot of tumultuous relationship between behaviorists, because they have to go to years of school and know a lot about dosage and all those kinds of things. So I understand why there is this weirdness. I think in order to give dogs and owners the best life possible, we have to have some kind of agreement in order for this stuff to work.
Have you noticed that a lot of the veterinary behaviorists, I've only seen them really cooperate with purely positive trainers?
Yes.
And then that turns into a never-ending cycle
of more drugs, more treats, more distractions, more redirection from the actual issue. Yes.
Right. I'm not even saying that purely positive methods can't work.
They can.
They can. They absolutely can, but they don't always work because it depends on the owner and it depends on the dog. Like if the owner is willing to do a certain level of management, a certain level of discipline, it can work. But I think where trainers get into this argument, as a lawyer, this really bothers me.
Okay.
Because they will argue definitions that aren't defined. They'll argue words that aren't defined. They'll say like, well, I have success doing this, or this works, but they don't define what success means and what work means. Yeah. So anytime you're looking at a legal issue or whatever, the number one thing in any legal document is the first thing is definitions. You have to define what you're talking about before you can argue who's right or wrong. And in dog training, they never define what they're talking about. So, for example, in one study, they'll say the force-free method was just as successful as the method that used correction or an e-call or something. This one had to do with livestock bothering and recall.
Okay.
But if you go in and read the actual study, the data was taken from owner surveys, not from quantifiable
a scale of how much the dog learns.
Right. It wasn't like, hey, can you call X dog off of a rabbit at this distance
and have everyone do the same.
And have everybody do the same thing. It wasn't quantified in that way. So if you're basing things off of owner surveys, or is it better, then you're arguing apples and oranges. If what you call success is being able to call your dog off a sheep with a fence in between you, then that's successful. If you're calling success being, I can walk in certain areas, avoid certain distractions, and be able to call my dog, then yes, you're successful. And that is success for many people.
Yeah.
So what the definition of success is for one person, one dog, and one situation is not the definition of success for somebody else. For me, that's not success. If I say recall, I mean I can call my dog off of absolutely anything at any time, any moment, no questions asked.
Yeah.
You have to define your criteria before you start arguing about who's right or who's wrong. And I'm not even going to get into that argument because, again, you can do all these methods can have success.
They all work. That's not the problem. They all work.
They all work. But what is success is different between that person, that person, that person, that dog, that dog, that dog, in that situation.
I've seen some truly some really badass purely positive trainers. But the problem that happens usually with purely positive training is the whole foundation of that is the reward timing. And it's really hard to explain to owners who are green the perfect reward timing. Right. So professional positive trainers, when they have your dog, they can rework that behavior purely positively. They can. I've seen them do it. Yeah. But a lot of times the upkeep when that dog goes home to the parent is where we really see the backslide. And so I think when we're talking about training styles and training management, the thing about the meds, the thing about the training styles or aversive tools, it is all about managing that particular dog and that particular owner. And even with this situation, when we're talking about multiple people owning more dogs than they should, or even owning a certain type of dog in the wrong location or the wrong environment, it's all situational.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, because I think people might listen to this podcast and say, well, at that rate, everybody's just a bad dog owner. And that's actually not the case. It's not what we're trying to say. But when we're talking about dogs who are truly enriched, dogs who are truly getting a full life, the average American does struggle with being able to provide that.
For sure.
And that's a fact. And it's frustrating as dog trainers, as people who love animals, it's very frustrating to watch and to see just all kinds of other things get mixed in with that. The medications, the bad dog training, the just even popular trends.
Expectations.
Yeah, and unreasonable expectations.
Lots of unreasonable expectations.
Yes.
Our dogs, for example, that we use for competition are very high drive.
Yes.
Dogs, right?
Yes.
And trying to make that dog fit into a suburban
home.
A pet home can be really unfair.
Yeah.
Unless that person is willing to go out and, like, this morning, what was I doing? I had to get up and take my dog's tracking and get hit with,
But that's what your dog needs.
That's what my dog needs.
That's what she wants to do.
That's what I had to do. So that's what I was out there in the morning, out on the, you have to be very dedicated
to the
dog.
It's work. It's a lot of work. And I see people who get, like, we have some people recently who came in, they had 2 working dog puppies, litter mates, and they had just had an infant. So I'm already picturing steps ahead where I'm seeing the puppies going through their fear phase at the same time that the baby is crawling, and that being a behavioral thing. Like, there's so many things that I think people just aren't necessarily seeing ahead of, and it almost feels like one of those things where I wish I could, if people would have a place where they could come into and say, hi, I'd like to get a dog, and we'd say, great, we'll match you to a dog, versus just people going out buying a dog and then saying, first day of training, let me start, because all of the training, the mindset, the lifestyle change, all of that starts before you even bring an animal into your home. Right. And that's a really tough thing to explain to people, because a lot of times dogs are taken as an accessory. And I'm close to New York. I train a lot of city dogs. And it's very much like, this is just an addition to my outfit. This is an addition to my lifestyle, and not something that I build my whole life around. And not saying you have to, but with certain breeds, you kind of do to live comfortably. You do.
Yeah, kind of do. I know my life revolves around
Onyx.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's that kind of dog. She's that kind of dog. And I found out about my little dog because I'm trying to keep him a cool, fun little house dog, but he wants to go out there and kill rodents.
And you're about to go ratting. You're about to have to go out
and
ratting.
I'm like, way too cute to do that, but that's what he wants, So I have to be that, because that's what will enrich him. And after, I will tell you, after he did that, Our neighborhood walks have been so calm. He's so pleased with himself.
After he killed the bunnies?
Oh, yeah. He's like, I got you, Mom. I'll heal. I'll do whatever. I'm looking at, oh, yeah, whatever. He's the coolest he's ever been. I'm like, man, his needs were met.
Her needs were met, yeah.
It stinks. So... And I bought a little rat toy. That wasn't enough. You know, I tried. The little cat toys that run with the tail. I tried. That wasn't enough. You don't want that.
He wants the real thing. He's got to go work.
It's the fulfillment.
Actually, there was a terrier that we got in several years ago and had been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and it was 10 months old and on gabapentin and something else. So this 10-month-old terrier was on medications for obsessive compulsive disorder. I guess it was diagnosed by a behaviorist. But it was just a terrier. It just wanted a
normal terrier.
Yeah, it was just a normal terrier, and it wanted to chase stuff
and play rough and
yeah. And the owner brought it in, and I trained it, and it didn't need medication from that point forward, because it was like, hey, don't chase that. Chase this over here. Yeah, and then, gave it some other outlets of this is how you can play, and show them how to play with their dog and do that. It was a very dedicated owner, so it worked out really well, which was cool. But it doesn't always work out great. But those dogs will develop obsessive compulsive tendencies if they're not given the outlets. They will start to obsessively chase leaves, and that's what that dog was doing, like starting to chase leaves and acting nutty. But he just needed to be like, hey, knock that off, try this. And he was all about it. He was like, okay, I don't have to be crazy and chase
I think
leaves.
Small dogs get the worst rap for that. I hate to say it, but I feel like people expect reactivity from German Shepherds and Dobermans and all that. They expect to be herded by a healer. I mean, they still make the mistake. But terriers are the dogs that I always see getting drugged, because people think it's supposed to be, oh, I got this small dog for my grandma because my grandpa died. She's alone in the house. I just wanted to get her a small dog she can hang out with. And that dog does not want to sit on your grandma's lap and watch The Price is Right. No. That dog wants to do something. Things. That dog is waiting by the door for her to open the door so he can go out and chase squirrels and do, like, that's just what that dog was made to do. And what's so tough also when we're talking about the medication stuff is that the breeding is so poor for the majority of dogs that are available to people that even if you do your research, even if you do look up, like, this breed was made to do this and that's why it'll be perfect to sit on the couch, you might still get something that is not what you intended because it's mixed with something else crazy, because that's how they got it small, or that's how they got it cute, or that's how they got it Merle, or whatever. Yeah. And then you end up right back in the same position as somebody who got a dog from a friend of a friend of a friend. So it's really, it puts people in a really tough spot, and my heart does go out to people who have the right intentions, because I have encountered people who did their research and they're like, I got this golden puppy and I'm so excited about it. And the golden puppy it's not a golden puppy, like a duck-tolling retriever, you know? Yeah, it's like one of those. And they're like, I thought it was a golden puppy. I'm like, they lied to you. They lied. And it's tough too, because a lot of times the shelters just put breeds that people are familiar with online so that you will interact with them more and that the dog will get adopted. And then we struggle because they come in for training and this is not a golden retriever. This is not giving you golden retriever energy.
Right. Or the dog might look like a certain dog, but not act like it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And then even within breeds, like, look at
there's variation.
Look at the German Shepherd.
Huge variation.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
You know, it's both my favorite dog and least favorite dog.
Yep.
You know? Yep.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place. So that article saying maybe we should have fewer dogs, it's not really wrong.
No.
We can go down a real big rabbit hole of how many dogs there are and who's getting what dog and why and where they're coming from and the surplus of dogs, and should dogs be and we were just, you being from the north and us being in the south, we ran into, hey, there's differences between the north and south.
Yeah.
Like, we have a major dog problem in the South. Mm-hmm. Surplus of dogs, just way overbreeding, irresponsible breeding, just accidental breeding. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of dogs in certain areas of Dallas. For example, we have problems with bags of abandoned dogs, killed dogs, bags of puppies being killed, and the Dallas Animal Shelter is just absolutely overrun.
Yeah,
it is overrun. There's
a lot of
so
our
many dogs.
Shelter and rescue dogs are shipped up from down here, so I don't fully know. I mean, our biggest issue is usually the puppy mills, because we're near the Amish in Lancaster and PA, and they have a lot of puppy breeding programs where they have kind of flea markets where they just trade and swap dogs.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I was talking about someone asking me to come with them and get a dog. A woman let me know she wanted a service dog for her son, and I explained to her what our top breeds are for that and where to get one from, and I had connections for her to get one, and she said not only is that out of my price range, but because her son is autistic, he had a sensory thing. And the only dog that he ever met that he would touch was a golden doodle, golden retriever, and a poodle. It's not about the look, it's about the coat texture. He has a sensory thing with the coat texture.
Oh, gotcha.
So he had to feel each individual puppy to know if it was even a puppy that he could be with. Yes,
Okay.
right. So we're going from breeder to breeder. Some breeders were more expensive, some breeders were less. And mind you, I'm traveling to doodle breeders. I'm struggling, man. So we're going to all these different breeders, and we're going to even the Amish puppy mills because she just needs the right coat texture, and I'm there to interview the temperament because the dog cannot be a service dog if it doesn't have the right temperament. So, you know, I'm doing like weird little tests where I'm like at an Amish farm taking the puppy and putting it on top of a freezer. And it's standing there and it's looking at me weird, or some puppies are walking around and like trying to explore, and I'm judging their temperament. And we now have a dog who he can handle on his own in the Home Depot and do things by himself. And she stays tethered to him when he goes to school, and she gets on the bus and she can do things. But there's so much that goes into that, especially with a mixed breed that almost shouldn't exist, that it sets a impossible precedent for people who see that and think, I saw this great golden doodle, I'm going to get a golden doodle and make it a service dog or an ESA for my kid.
Yeah, and they have no idea what went into trying to find that.
Years of work, and the mom was working, years of teamwork. Yeah, it's hard. And I'm grateful that we got that for him, but I do sometimes just think in the back of my head, I hope nobody thinks, oh my goodness, what breeder did you get your dog from? I'm going to go copy and do the same thing, because that's
definitely not an
the
ideal
intention.
situation.
No.
Whatsoever.
And even still, I do worry about her accessibility as she ages, because now the dog's about 3 or 4, and so she can do public access things, but I still worry for when she's 6, 7, 8, you know, stairs in the house and things like that, with a body that is not necessarily made to do those kinds of things. That's hard to do. We can't even send in her x-rays to get a full idea of if it's right, because compare it to what? What are her x-rays supposed to be? They can say looks good, but it's not enough for years of work. Owning dogs in general, it's a struggle.
Owning dogs, the breeding dogs,
yes.
Dog rescues, and then what doesn't make it any better is all the infighting within the dog community.
Yeah.
Makes it even harder.
It's harder for regular people who are training their dogs, or even just regular people I'll see online posting their dogs, just trying to do something.
Right.
And they get
and there's such
a bad rap.
Or there's so much judgment or
know-it-alls.
And there's so, like you said, like there's so many ways that training can work. It's not one, you're right, you're wrong, but that's what is always online.
Yeah.
And online is like you follow one person and they're saying, well, this person is stupid. I posted one video that showed a dog that we have, and I showed the previous training as an example of why it didn't work for this dog. And honestly, that really wasn't good training. I couldn't.
There's no way around that.
I couldn't justify.
Yeah, no.
I just couldn't justify that clip that the owner gave us at all. I tried, but I really couldn't. That's not the right way to teach a heel. It's not the right way to teach. It was a dog that was getting yanked back and forth and back and forth.
There was no clarity in anything that was happening.
There was no clarity. Usually, most of the time, the arguing is actually going on between trainers, and none of them are wrong. They're just all arguing the wrong definition.
Yeah.
They're arguing different apples and oranges and yelling at each other. And pet owners seeing that, being like, well, I don't trust any of these people. Or what do I do? Or if I tell my dog, no, that's wrong, I can't correct my dog, or correction's wrong, or that's not it.
That's why I personally love the feeling of a person coming back and seeing their dog doing everything after a board and train, because then it feels like I don't have to argue with you if your dog is trained, if everything worked. I just have to show you how to use the tools or how to do the thing that we did.
Right.
And then there's no conversation of, should I say no? Should I not do this? Should I do that? You already see your dog can do everything. You already see what worked for your dog.
Yeah, and a lot of people argue against board and trains because they're like, well, the owner doesn't...
You don't know where your dog is and what's happening.
Or that, well, you're not part of it, so you can't maintain it, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
And there's some merit to that, but in the part that I argue for board and train is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Is because it's a lot harder to train a dog to do something than it is to handle a dog. And you know that from dog sport. Because in dog sport, there are people who can buy a trained dog and learn to handle it and do really well, but they couldn't train that dog from the start to finish. So it's the same thing goes for pet dogs. Like if somebody gets a dog trained and then they learn how to maintain it and handle it.
It's just follow up.
It's just follow through and maintenance. That is way more doable. And the other flip side of that is that if a pet owner sees that the dog is capable of doing it, because that is the number, I think it's the number one hurdle to get over. Like almost everyone come in, it's almost like you've never seen a dog this bad before, right? They come in, they're talking about their dog. It's like, no, you haven't seen a dog like this. My dog's the worst. It's like, no, we really have. And
it's like we had people come in for an eval. They said their dog was stupid. Your dog is not stupid. You just are not communicating correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when people see that and they don't believe they think their dog's stupid or the dog's stubborn or the dog's this or the dog can't do it. Like my dog's not capable. Mm-hmm. So sending the dog to a good trainer, to a board and train, and then seeing that your dog is capable of doing it, then they can believe, and then that expectation is set, and they're able to maintain it. Well, they could never have gotten there to start with because they would never fully commit mentally that, hey, my dog can do this, so I just need to keep following through and doing it, because they won't trust the process because they don't believe that the end goal is possible.
And that's the trouble too. I made a post not that long ago about how you have to have some kind of trust with your trainer. And it's weird because when I started training dogs, my dad told me, he said a lot of times it ends up feeling like a therapy session. Because a lot of times a reason that the person may not trust you or may not even trust themselves or may not trust their dog has way more things to do with things that are happening in their life and personally than it has to do with the dog or the person they hired or any of those kinds of things, right? You have to have a relationship with whoever the person you entrusted to deal with your pet. You have to have a relationship where you're like, I know they're not going to steer me wrong. You do. And if you feel like you don't trust them, that's not the person to train your dog. That's not the person who can help you. Because if you don't believe them, if they say turn right and you're like, I don't think I should turn right,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You have to believe in the dog training in order for your dog to think, I have to listen to this person.
Yep. It's like your dad. When he coaches me, if he says turn right, I turn right. I don't think about it. I don't think about it. I don't think, should I really turn right?
Yeah.
No, turn right, turn left. You got it. You know?
Okay.
And that's really how it has to be if you're trying to accomplish something.
I agree.
Going back to the theme of this whole thing, too many people own dogs, and if you love dogs, maybe don't get one. The conclusion to this is, because if you are thinking, hey, I want to get a dog, but you don't have time, you don't have green space, you're thinking of it as what can the dog do for me? Maybe you shouldn't get a dog, because really, if you're getting a dog, it should be, what am I getting? What am I going to do for that dog? What does the dog need from me? It needs to be dog-centered, not human-centered. And too many people, I think, are getting dogs because of what they want the dog to do for them instead of what they can do for the dog. Shifting that paradigm is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because if you change yourself to what can I do for that dog, one, you're going to be way more successful. But chances are you will be very successful with your dog. You're going to have a better relationship, and it requires you to be a better person. And that's what I always repeat. Like, if you can be a good dog owner and you can do what your dog needs, you're going to be a better person. You're going to do better yourself. You're going to have to be disciplined. If you suffer from depression, you don't have time to be depressed if you're taking a good care of your dog. Because they don't care if you want to sleep in. You got to get up. They don't care. They don't care. They got to go potty. And guess what? You got to get up and you got to move, and then you start feeling better.
Yeah.
And then you start being more aware of your emotions, and you have to be aware of, how do I feel when I'm interacting with this dog? So
because they cue to
they
that.
cue to you.
Yeah.
So if you're getting a dog and you're thinking about what that dog can do for you, don't get a dog.
Yeah.
It needs to be, hey, I am willing to change myself and better myself to meet this dog's needs. If you can do that and that's how you're approaching it, then get a dog. Yeah. Otherwise, I have to agree.
I agree. I think it's be the person that your dog thinks you are. For the people who already have a dog, you have to understand that you are your dog's whole life. Even when you go to work and you leave the house, they're still there waiting for you to come back. Their whole life revolves around you. So you have to set the expectation of when they look at you like, I just love you, you have to be the person that is worthy of that. And I know that sounds like a steep bill, but that is just the reality. And I think for people who are young college students, because I see a lot of them getting dogs, for people who live in an inner city, for people who do not have a housing setup that is great for the majority of dogs, you can still volunteer at shelters to do dog walks. You can come and ask people who are registered AKC breeders and say, hey, can I just like shadow you and learn from your dogs? I'm sure if you send a nice email that is pure intentioned, someone eventually will get back to you, because people who work with animals do always need help, because taking care of living things takes a lot of work. So if you have an interest in learning more about dog behavior before committing to a breed, those are options for you as well. Thank you for listening to Clarity PAWDcast.
Follow us at Train with Clarity. It's the same handle for YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Train with Clarity. And also at Cosmic Canine NJ, New Jersey, that's Daio. And Plano is Cosmic Canine Training. Any one of those. Follow us. Follow all of them.
Follow
They're
everything.
fun.